Cappawhite DVD for 2007, our first ever visual recording of some of the happenings in the parish of Cappawhite for the year, as well as a look back at some memories from the past.
The idea behind the DVD is to capture and celebrate the community spirit that is visible through all the various bodies that are active within the parish. But more than that, it is intended to be a showcase for the achievements of the people of Cappawhite, both individually and collectively.
For the last few months, the group responsible for this production have been following the fortunes of many of our parishioners, chasing some of the local characters and putting together something that we hope you will enjoy now and in the future.
This project was a result of many volunteers giving up their free time to hopefully make something that the people of Cappawhite will be proud of. We will take you back 20 years to the greatest moment of our GAA club's history, winning the county final.
We will also show the excellent voluntary initiatives that are taking place each and every day at our resource centre, as well as giving the history and documenting the changes of our pub trade. We also have a short segment on the GAA summer camp.
But one of the most enjoyable parts of the DVD is the fact that so many talented people from the community produced a song for Cappawhite, so stay tuned for that. But first of all, we are going to take you back in time, right back to 1946, with some priceless archive footage of the village taken just after World War II.
In that year, an uncle of the Foster family, Christy Shanahan, recorded people of the village going about their day. It is perhaps the only moving history of Cappawhite from that period. The small few minutes of footage is narrated by Frankie Foster, and we have decided to let him tell the story unedited, so enjoy the trip back in time.
This is a funeral going up to the church in Chapel Lane in Cappawhite. My grandmother outside her house being greeted by some gentleman, I don't know who he is. Our van, Vivian, my mother in the doorway, Barbara's house next door, my grandmother 2 houses up sitting outside her own house, the post office, my grandmother, incidentally where in that house my mother was born, and up to Christy and several other siblings. And there's my grandmother outside the house again, looking up the chapel, the Castle Road. There was any detailer walking down with the shawl, girls, Harrington. This is a farmhouse in County Limerick, the Lundragans. My brother Vivian, my grandmother speaking to Mrs. Lundragan, Vivian and Rick Lundragan, I think his name was. This is Cappawhite looking south to the square, Vivian and our van, Dinny Baragry with his greyhounds. Back of my grandmother's house, left to right, Freddie, my grandmother, Thomas Haddock, myself, my mother and Aunt Aggie, my mother again. Right to left, Freddie, Aunt Aggie and Christy and myself. I think I was 17 then. John Minogue going home for his lunch from Timney's Bakery. Looking out the Cattle Road again, girls, don't know them. Looking up the Chapel Lane, my grandmother outside her house again. Again with Janie Haddock this time, and Vivian passing and getting nearly knocked over by Janie. An anonymous ass and trap. Back of my grandmother's house, my father, Vivian, my grandmother, Aunt Aggie and myself. That was my father, age 62 I think then. Looking again up the Chapel Lane. Chris Ryan in his butcher's shop. The left house is Freddie's birthplace. Then there's the school where I went to from the age of 3 to 10. The fair green in front of it, Lar Burke. The church, myself, Freddie, Vivian, apparently I'm smoking. Our van, looking down to the square, our house, Baragry's house, fleetingly our Mary. The church, Christy Lukey and Vivian coming out, looking south towards the Galtee Mountains. The fields in between are known as the Golden Vale. This is south again with Shannon's Hall. in the foreground. A market or fair day in Cappawhite, a small one by the look of the small number of cattle for sale and the farmers bargaining. This is the top of the local turf hill, a bog where turf peat was cut. Johnny Bahuna, Vivian, Michael Barrowby, my Aunt Aggie, again Vivian with stacks of turf out to dry.
The public houses of rural Ireland have always been centre points for social activity for the local community. At one point it was said that there was a pub for every 250 people. In this clip, local publican Liam Armshaw will give you a brief history of the pubs in Cappawhite. Jim spoke to him.
The history of the pubs in Cappawhite, I'm told by some of the older historians, local historians, that there was as many as 27 pubs in Cappawhite. John Tracy, who died not so long ago, drew a map of the village for me in his younger days, and there was 23 pubs on it. So for a small village, it was a huge number of pubs. And in my own time, as I said, in 1976, there was 11 pubs in the village up and running. But the history of it, of why would there be so many in the village, going back in time, Cappawhite was famous for its fair days. They used to have 12 fair days in the year, one every month, and it was famous throughout Ireland. And that one fair day was enough to keep that many pubs going for a small period of time until the next fair came along, and each one of the pubs had something else to fall back on during the slack periods. They were either small farmers, or they had maybe a shop going with the pub, or in our case here, all the Amishers were shoemakers in their time. And that kept them going in the interim, but the fair day was massive. I remember an older historian in Cappawhite, Liam Schofield, told me that it used to be absolutely black with people and cattle for the whole day. Maybe going out 2 miles each of the 3 roads, there'd be a convoy of cattle coming to the fair in Cappawhite. So it used to bring big business to Cappawhite, that fair day. But then of course they died out in the early 60s and eventually died out altogether. And hence, I suppose that's one of the reasons that you see a huge reduction in the pubs in Cappawhite, you know.